Welcome to the Gaelan Trombley Show. You can find me on Facebook at Gaelan Trombley, on Instagram at Gaelan Trombley, and on YouTube at Gaelan Trombley. Spelling GaelanTrombley. Enjoy the show. On episode 31 of the Gaelan Trombley Show, I have John Manor visiting me in studio. We talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about his background. We talk about his current position at SeaComm, and we also talk about his love of fitness. So I hope you guys enjoy episode 31 of the Gaelan Trombley Show. Welcome to the Gaelan Trombley Show. Welcome to episode 31 of the Gaelan Trombley Show. I'm here today with John Manor. John is the business development representative at SeaComm. He grew up locally, but we'll let him talk about that. And so welcome to the show, John.
Thanks, Gaelan. Glad to be here. This is the first podcast and pretty excited for it.
I was going to ask you before you got on if this was your first podcast. I wasn't sure.
No, this is. And we talked about it, and I know we set up the date and time. I believe it was Tuesday, and I've been pretty jacked up since.
I try to give people a little more leeway, or kind of a little head start before. I usually don't spring it on you that late, but for whatever reason, I don't think I've missed a week of the podcast, so I didn't want to miss this week. And the person I had lined up had to reschedule, so then I saw you at North Country Connections, and I'm happy you stepped up to the plate. It's a little late tonight, but that's all right. We'll still have a good time. So, John, for people that do not know you, give them a little background, kind of where you grew up, all the way to kind of what you do now in 2019.
Sure. Well, I was born in 91 over across the lake in Burlington, Vermont. Went to Beekmantown through and through. Was stationed in Beekmantown all the way through high school. Graduated class of 2010. I do have a twin brother. That's a fact that not a lot of people know about me, but a lot of people know him. But those who kind of have come into my life a little bit later, say post high school and post the young days, don't really know that I have a twin. And when I spring that on them, they're kind of like, "Oh wow, you have a twin?" They're like, "No way. Let me see a picture. So then I'll pull up like a family picture, and they'll point to my dad usually, because my dad and I look just alike. But my brother, we're fraternal. We're fraternal twins. I'm brown hair, brown eyes. He's blonde hair, blue eyes. And born 2 minutes apart. I happen to be the older one. But, he lives in the area now, or did, and he's actually serving over in Afghanistan right now with the National Guard for Vermont. He volunteered. He did 4 years in the Air Force. And when he was over doing his 4 years in the Air Force, I was at Springfield College in Springfield, Mass. Was kind of recruited there to play some football at a high school at Beekmantown, and wound up there and wouldn't change that experience for the world. After playing, a collegiate sport, it just kind of taught me a lot of life lessons, a lot of valuable life lessons, and met a ton of great guys who still to this day that I, in contact with and, try to see every now and then. A lot of them live down in the Westchester area, Connecticut area, Massachusetts area, so we're kind of out of the way up here. And then after college, I spent some time right outside of Hartford, Connecticut, doing a couple different things. I was a manager, believe it or not, at Chipotle. Kind of just started as a college job that I got into on my last semester, senior year, because through the credits that I took at Beekmantown, I believe they called it CAP credits, I had about a semester done, and I was able to transfer those over. So my second semester, senior year, was just living in an off-campus house with 5 other football guys, and the parents would come on family weekend and whatnot. I actually wasn't living there on family weekend during the season, but would spend a lot of time there. And every one of them said they wouldn't let the dogs live there, a cat, even an animal. And so the spring of 2014, we graduated. I lived in that house and lived on a deflated air mattress for 2 months, actually. It had no air because we would, have a little too many beers a couple nights, and one of my bigger friends would jump on it and use it as a trampoline, and so that popped. So we easily went 2 months where I would just blow air up into it every night. And so I just picked up a Chipotle job because we used to go to Chipotle probably once, twice a week, right across the state line in Enfield, Connecticut. And so I was working in Enfield, and living in Mass and just crossing over the border every day. But sounds crazy, but it was really only, like people do here, but it was only a 10-minute drive. So, but ended up excelling at Chipotle because I always just like to done well with what I work. Whatever I do, like to do well and like to watch myself kind of advance and progress through ranks if possible. And so graduation came and I was kind of caught with a dilemma like, hey, do I want to go back to New York or what do I want to do? I could have had the option to live with one of my buddies down here in Connecticut. So I was like, you know what, let me stay. Then I started training to be what's called a kitchen manager, was, for a while, and then trained to be a service manager and so on up, and ended up working there for 2.5 years. Before I was like, it's not for me anymore. So then I picked up a little bartending job in West Hartford, Connecticut, for about 1.5 years until about June of 2017 is when I came back to Plattsburgh. I had my father, Shannon, was kind of gave me the talk because I was 24 at the time. Hey, Junior, you're almost 25. You're getting or 26. So I was 25 at the time. So you turn 26. You get off the parents' insurance. You need to find yourself something stable. With the insurance benefits, the whole 9 yards, right? The typical dad spiel. And then I landed at Glens Falls National Bank and for about 1 year and met a lot of great people through there and learned a lot of valuable skills and with the banking field and ended up at SeaComm as the business development rep about 6 months ago and couldn't be happier.
That's great. That's actually probably one of the best intros. I like that. Okay, that's very cool. So. Beekmantown, class of 2010. What sports did you play in high school? You said football, obviously, because I went into college. But. Yeah,
and played baseball as well. Baseball was a sport that I really, really enjoyed, and it was just so lax. Our practices, go take a little BP. We're out shagging
was
ball.
Eric your coach?
No, I had Jim Knight.
I don't know him.
Jim Knight, who actually just accepted the superintendent of schools job at Northern Adirondack.
Okay.
Yep, just recently. So congratulations to Jim. He was a great guy. He was a great coach. And as I started playing football at the collegiate level, I was like, man, those baseball practices were pretty nice, huh? We would just catch fly balls and just take a little bit of infield, outfield, and batting practice, and go over some skills and drills, and that was about it. We called it a day.
I remember I played at Shea Z, but we had a decent baseball team growing up, and then. Same thing. You got to the point where like you could only do so much. Like the pitchers weren't really going to pitch, so it was like you go out, you toss the ball around. You might have gone over some situational plays here and there. If a ball was hit to the outfield, how would you, basically relay the ball in or something like that. But at the end of the day, most of it was just doing batting practice. So you shag baseballs in the outfield, or you'd grab a position. Usually, most guys were, running out probably left field or center field or shortstop, where most of the balls were being pulled that way. So. Baseball practices were great, and the one thing I loved about baseball is like when we went to Shazy, like we took soccer, we put a lot of effort into soccer. We got over that, and then we kind of got into basketball, which was a little more lax, but it was a long season. So I think as we came out of the winter and we went into baseball, it was like, okay, we made it, and away games were a joke. We'd play, we had more fun on the bus coming home, and if you have a good group of guys, which we did. God, baseball was so much fun.
Baseball was a ton of fun, and I'm glad you brought up the bus trips. We would do a lot of things on the bus, especially growing up. I had my first experience with it 9th grade, and we had that senior class, which consisted of a lot of really good guys in Beekmantown, and they all played baseball, and they would just get after each other on the bus, and that was like, wow, is this what we have to look forward to? Yeah. And because we were still a little young, and some of us were interactive with it, but there was a lot of things that went down on the bus for baseball trips that you didn't see on football trips because they were more serious. But if you lost a baseball game, it's only Monday. It's like, heck, we got another one on Tuesday or Wednesday. Let's whatever. Let's just go get that one.
It's a short season, and I think what's baseball is maybe 8 weeks total from pitching in the gym or throwing in the gym to like the final game. It's a very fast season.
Yeah, it goes super fast because. Well, prime example right now in northern New York, the weather is still not cooperating great for baseball games. And here we are creeping up on we're in the second week of May. Yeah. So and then graduation is the end of June. So, and you're done well before that. But baseball was a trip of a sport. One of my biggest pet peeves in sports, being on high school sports, my two things that I couldn't stand. coming into sports, was missing a tackle in football because I love defense and was a linebacker, and that's what I was recruited for to go to Springfield and stuff, but didn't stay there. We can talk about that. But and missing of dropping a fly ball. I could not stand either one of those two things. So I was center field and linebacker for football primarily. And if I missed the tackle or dropped a fly ball, it would haunt me for days.
The fly ball, I think most people dropped a fly ball because they probably ran up too quick.
Yeah.
And then you had to do like the backtrack and either went over your head, which you see all the time in high school baseball.
All the time.
Or someone trying to one-handed catch. You always talk like two hands in baseball, which, you're not in the MOB. Usually it's kind of nice to kind of, trap it into the glove. But
yeah.
Of course, by the time you're a junior, senior, it's like bad habits have crept in at that point. And
it was, yeah. And of course, when, I had to have the coolest glove, right? I had this Rawlings Heart of the Hide trapeze 12.5 or 13-inch glove, which I still have today.
That's a pretty long one, yeah.
Yeah, I was a true outfielder.
That full web.
Oh, I loved it.
Basket.
Broke it right in. Yeah, broke right in. We used to do some old school stuff. Put a softball in it, dip it in oil, rubber band,
yeah.
Just squeeze it at night like this while watching TV, opening and closing the glove. And
put it under your mattress.
Yeah,
those
those wild stuff that you'd say, literally quote dad tricks.
Yeah.
To break in the glove.
Yeah.
And
put
we
the
would
oil
do all
in
those.
the mitt and
yeah, and of course I had to have a Easton Stealth comp bat. It was you're only going to hit home runs if you had the $400 bat, right?
That's it. That's
that you literally we would break it in a little bit in batting practice, right? And then okay, guys, that's enough with the bat. This is came from played against sports. This is a game bat. We got to put this puppy back in the bag, and no throwing that bat bag on the ground. So it was great. Really good times. We would get so lax at our practice, we would take our shirts off and tan in the outfield. While we were taking BP, we're just handing out there, just tanning, making the young guys, making all anyone who was young out there go get all the fouls in the woods. We're not going to get those, especially as your senior year. No, not a chance, man.
No, that's great. It was also there's also the one sport that you can eat during the game. I remember we used to go, meaning like you always had sunflower seeds.
Oh. That's another.
So
my
back pocket. I played in high school. I played second base or shortstop, one of the two. And I always had sunflower seeds in the back pocket. And then every once in a while, we would sneak in beef jerky. Mm-hmm. So you'd have beef jerky in your back pocket. So you'd be eating during the game. It's the only sport I know that you could be eating food while the game's going on, while you're in the game. And baseball is a very unique sport. Like I said, totally. And there's no exertion ever. I mean, the most you ever do is maybe stealing second.
Yeah, and if you hit a triple,
if you hit a triple, man,
you're on third base and you're sucking wind.
Yeah, and I mean, by the time you got the baseball, everybody was out of shape. I mean, you lost it over the winter. So
and back on the snack part, if you literally didn't have snacks for the game, like you didn't stop at the vending machine and grab those crackers or those pretzels to take on that road trip to Saranac Lake and have to munch on during the game, you were botching it.
Yeah,
you were messing up. And our dugout was so lax. My sophomore year, we had a couple of guys with temperamental issues, right?
That's right, yeah.
Who were seniors. They'd strike out. Coach Knight actually let us hang a punching bag in our dugout, out of the way of the fans, but still visible to the opposing dugout. And we would come in and we literally, so instead of punching the dugout wall, which I shouldn't say occasionally, occurred daily. Yep. We set up a punching bag we hung in the dugout, and it was great. It was a huge stress reliever, and I'm like, this is why I love coming out here, man.
I remember playing in a game. This was an away game, so we were at another team's facility, and I remember sitting in the dugout. One of the guys in my class struck out. I don't even know if he was a starter. Like I think he was just he subbed and probably was only at bat. So he strikes out. So he comes walking over. And he's pissed that he struck out. So he takes the bat and he hits the side of the dugout. Now, the dugout was like an old plywood, kind of a pieced together kind of thing. And I remember sitting probably right over by the edge of the dugout, and all I heard was just whack. And I'm like, what the hell? 'Cause I kind of lost sight of him because he had walked on the side.
Right.
I remember the coach ripped into him. And as soon as he did it, he realized oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. And I still remember to this day, everybody just ragging on him because he did. I got yelled at, and of course he sat down. And we were just relentless on him on the bench because there's nothing else to do in baseball. It's a slow sport. You know,
Slow.
there's not a lot of action going on. Foul ball, pitcher goes back. So
Yeah, you send the young guys back, especially you'd get you'd play one of those teams from the area who were not great, and they would cite, we'd go through, they'd have like that one kid who was like their only pitcher, and he just couldn't throw a strike. So we're just up there chopping hay, just trying to get a hit, so this game doesn't last 3 hours.
yeah,
But
been a part of. That's the problem with high school baseball. If one team's significantly better, those can be long, and it's like 30-3, and it's like, oh my god.
And nothing's better than when you had one of the guys who knew how to do it, keep book.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if the ball literally hit the glove and fell to the ground. That's a hit, man. That was a hit. The stats would get super padded against those teams too, because we'd get away with everything. Ground ball, hits off the chest, errant throw to first base.
Yep. He beat the throw.
He beat the throw. He beat the throw.
That's it.
And he ended up on second. Well, I think that ball hit the gap. Actually,
that's a 2B.
That's
definitely.
a 2B.
Yeah. We. I actually. I was big. I grew up playing. I don't know if you ever played it, but like they used to have these like baseball card games. You roll the dice and they go off the cards. And it was kind of a cool thing me and my dad did as a kid, and he still kind of does it. But man, I remember I was huge into baseball. I was a big Expos fan back in the day. Still am. They'll come back one day. And so I remember I learned how to do the book by doing that. So I was always like the designated. Even if I was playing in the game, Again, Shays Day, we don't have a lot. There wasn't a lot of people volunteering to take the book on a high school baseball game. So. Especially away games, like I would do the books. I'd fill out the books. I'd go play out there, come back, fill out the books. Coach might do it or whatever. But
sure.
It's kind of a cool skill. I probably could still. I could do it fairly quick. I mean, it's not hard to learn, but it does take kind of a talent because you got to understand the game and. And keep it semi-accurate, especially because there's a lot of stats in baseball.
Well, there is, and things can back up quicker than you think on that book, and you can kind of forget a score if you got runners. If you're not keeping track of where runners are, someone kind of comes home. It's like, oh, where'd this guy go? Oh, well, they actually came home, so it's 9-1 instead of 8-1.
And there's times like you'd have to compare scorebooks with the other coach
all the time.
Yeah, you go up and be like, hey, what's the score to be? It's 13-12,
especially during the Pee Wee leagues, right? The coach's wife or whoever's mom would be like, okay, top of the fourth, scoreboard check. This is what I got. This is what you got. Okay, we're still on pace.
Yep.
Happened all the time.
Like, hey, you want to say it's top of the sixth? Yeah, let's move this game along. So you went to let me see, Springfield, Mass for college. You said you didn't graduate there, or you did?
I did graduate there.
Then what'd you say you didn't stay at?
Linebacker in football.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I definitely stayed at Springfield College, and I had a little bit of a roundabout way that I did my schooling. Came out of high school, and up until I was about 24, I was hell bent and determined to get into law enforcement. And I kept my nose clean with everything I needed to do, and kept my grades up, and tried my best to really work on my character and have a strong character. Try to always do the right thing when if everyone's watching or if no one's watching, right? And so, but then I also had a passion for fitness, and I still do. So I went into Springfield originally going into for applied exercise science, which is essentially you could come out with a strength and conditioning coach, and that's what a lot of guys did. You could do personal training, but you could get a personal training certificate on a weekend and an hour course online, right? So I kind of came in to do that, but then deep down inside, I always wanted to be in law enforcement. So I'm like, there was a ton of work involved with being applied exercise science and internships and having to do a conference that you needed to get these points for and this and that. So I'm like, you know what? And after my first year, actually, I almost didn't go back to Springfield, which would have been the worst decision of my life. I would have never forgave myself.
Like homesick or just?
Didn't
like the area?
Well, it was just maybe a combination of a lot of things. I don't know if I really was going to enjoy the next football season, because as a freshman, you don't play that much. And, going into that second year, you build all your friendships and you have an idea what's going on. By this time I had been moved over to a defensive end. But I was like, why? My parents were talking, if you're going to go into law enforcement and you want to do that, just come to Plattsburgh State. It'll be a lot cheaper. Go in for like psychology and something like that. But I was really kind of stuck on, do I really want to play football, continue to play football? How much do I like it? It's a ton of time. It's a full-time job. Those out there who played college sports or sport at the collegiate level, it's a full-time job. But, on top of that, it was just a lot. Football was tough. And it's, you don't want to, are you going to play? Am I not going to play? long story short, ended up going back to Springfield for my sophomore year and switched over to general studies, which is like essentially a liberal arts. But I was able to kind of customize my degree how I want it to be. I would still take classes in exercise science, like anatomy phys, exercise physiology, kinesiology, because I still had an interest in that. But I'd also worked myself into some criminal justice courses. And I also worked in some business courses because I was, they're always good to have: business ethics, business communication, personal finance. I wanted to ready myself for life as well, in case I had the entrepreneur hair ever sprout up on my back. I was kind of have a little bit of a background on that too. So kind of finished what I finished was general studies, and because for law enforcement you don't need a criminal justice degree. From what everyone says, you just need a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree depending on where you're applying. And I didn't want to be just criminal justice with no other experience in anything else.
Yeah, I think I've kind of taken, like, I went to college and I did that whole thing, and I really think going forward, like you said, being more well-rounded on some stuff is beneficial, because I find, like, I have a couple younger people that work here, and they're still kind of or interning, they're going through college, and it's always the same thing, like, what am I going to do next? Like, you were probably 20, well, after the end of your freshman year you're probably 19, 20.
Yeah, 19.
Yeah, so you're starting to look at, like, what do I want to do? Like, at 19, to me, you don't really know anything that you want to do. Like, you might have an idea, like, you had kind of a general idea where you'd go, but probably wasn't banking. You know what I mean? And it gets to the point where you evolve as a person, you get different interests, or opportunity, unveils itself. But I find that somebody that's well-rounded, and like you said, having some more kind of life skills versus, to me, going to, like, I would have done if I could go back, I would have done high school and college, or lack of college, much different. Meaning, like, more, because I think what a lot of people lack coming out of high school and college is personal financing, budgeting, understanding, compound interest, understanding, mortgages, understanding, health insurance, understanding all of these things that life just springs at you when you become our age. And
sure,
I think the fact that you said that, you kind of came out with a very kind of, I would say kind of like a broad degree, because you took a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's a great term for it.
But it made you very well-rounded. And to me, I think it's very good to have a lot of knowledge in a lot of aspects, like, especially in the job you have now. I bet you that's helped tremendously, because you can talk about a lot of things. So like right now, if you take, like I said, business development, I have an idea of what that is. And I think we were kind of talking before, but, like, everything has very much changed from what you originally went for. Like law enforcement, or even exercise. And we'll touch on that in a sec. But so, like, for you, like, what we kind of talked about, like, a day in the life, but, like, what do you do on a daily? It can be everything. You can encompass all of this, but, like, also talking about your kind of the position you're in now and kind of the goal of it, because I know a position like that, you are meeting a lot of people, and you're out there. You're a very public person at that point,
right? And I meet a ton of people right now, day in and day out. And a lot of skills, and you can attest to this, I think anyone can, but especially when we were going back in school, the 2010, it was a huge push for everyone to go to college. You got to go to college, you got to go to college, you got to go to college, get a good job. Mm-hmm. If you don't go to college, you'll never get a good job. You can come out, and it was kind of frowned upon, graduation. They made you feel, they made it seem frowned upon if you came out at graduation, so-and-so workforce.
Yeah, exactly.
That was kind of looked down upon. But now, take that person who was, real quick in the workforce and learned the trade of a plumbing or an electrician or a carpenter, or a painter, and now they've gained valuable life skills. They worked on, they're 4 years ahead on working on their own budget, as we talked about, and we'll talk about that in a sec, because I do those as presentations. They're on their own now. They're paying their own rent. They're doing a lot of these things that you're going to school for 4 years. You're kind of procrastinating some of those life skills. And some of us come out with, and I will be the first to admit, I didn't come out with the best degree, but I kind of made it work for myself. We'll go to St. Lawrence because it's this prestigious university for $55,000 a year. Not get that much in scholarships, and then I'm paying off student loans, so I'm 45 because I'm just an English teacher, or I'm a math teacher, or something like that. But, you can do that at a lot cheaper of a place. Each institution has their own, specialty, but, just the life skills you can learn coming out in the workforce, I think is really going to start coming back, because it's just needed, because a lot of skill and trade jobs there's a super spike. Because I talk to these type of businesses every day, the local businesses, they can't find good people. Someone who wants to show up every day at 9 o'clock or 8:30, and if you're supposed to be here at 9, but you're showing up at 9:10, and you've got a Starbucks donut and cup in your hand, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on? We start at 9:10, or we start at 9. Sorry, the line at Starbucks was long. I didn't expect it to be that long." It's like that's kind of how that generation has evolved into. But if you're bought into a different way, you're much better off.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about like trades, plumbing, electric.
They're back. They are back.
Well, if I knew 10 years ago, I would have gone to like CV Tech and learned a trade, because I look at it now, like at least my degree, like I got my license to sell real estate when I was in college. I've been doing this for a long time.
Yep.
But I didn't need college for what I'm doing now. And the other thing is like, why I wish I would have known plumbing, electrical, carpentry, just for future stuff. Like I own an apartment. I mean, I'd like to get more. Like it'd be cool to, if I had to fix that or do stuff in my house. But the amount of people that have a plumbing or in the plumbing trade, the electric trade, those guys are all retiring right now. They're going to be retiring, and
they are.
You're seeing a lot of them. They're in their 40s, 50s, 60s. Maybe even 70s. I know a couple guys that you do that taping, they're really good, and they're really good at what they do, but they're retiring. There's nobody to fill in that gap, or the demand for that gap, because that demand is, I believe, going to increase even more, because people, I don't have the skill for that, so I'm hiring out. Well, if there's a bunch of people like me that never grew up doing it, and there's a limited amount that are doing it, just, again, the supply and demand is going to not be good. So I think trade, anybody out there is a young kid, if you don't want to go to, you don't know what you want to do at college, you don't want to me, if you're not going for a professional degree, meaning you need it, like an attorney, a doctor, a teacher, something like that, if you're going to go my profession, your profession, I don't think you need did you need a degree for yours?
No.
Yeah,
no,
so,
absolutely not.
And I think a lot of the stuff, it's like, if you don't know, worst case to me, go in, do a trade. Or if you really don't want to know and you want to go to college or whatever, I think your best thing is just shadow a bunch of companies, a bunch of people. Like I think, I have a couple. I got one girl right now who's in college and she wants to do real estate. And she's like well beyond her years. She's very, very driven. But she's shadowing me to learn real estate, and it's like she's gonna get so much out of that compared to just going and sitting in a room reading a textbook. And, I'm hoping, kind of what you alluded to before, like to go to college, to spend all that money and get into so much debt. So when you come out at 21, 22, you have $50, $100, $150,000 worth of debt. And it's like you said, that's a mortgage payment that you're paying off for 30 years. And it's insane the amount of people that come out, what I would say, behind, meaning you're already owing, where... I was lucky enough I didn't have that, but I also had the wherewithal to, kind of what you said with your parents had told you, you don't need to go to a fancy special college. I went to Plattsburgh State, saved money. I don't have any student loans right now, and that has put me in a position we talked about before. Like I have an apartment building because I'm not paying student loans, and
yeah.
I think that's, I agree 100% with what you just said. I think I hope education going forward is going to evolve into more trades, more courses, more 1-year specialty schools, or you maybe go away to, or you go to, I don't know, you live in Albany for a year, but you take a special course on finance or on real estate or on,
absolutely,
banking, and just immerse yourself and shadow and learn, and then you can go right into a business and excel at it.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing really is, for kids, if you don't know, if you're coming out of school or high school and you don't know what to do, just don't feel the need to go to school. Just start gaining experience somewhere. Start gaining real world experience. Start meeting people, because every person you meet, and it's so big in my profession, has their own network. Everyone you meet has their own contacts and has their own kind of umbrella of people that they know, and then it kind of goes off from there. And what we were just talking about, what you just alluded to, is I was just visiting a business today, and this kid was working on a skidder, which is, for logging and stuff. And this is a big piece of machinery. And, I was talking to them, and because they were working, and, I drop in, and he's just like, how old are you, man? He goes, 17. And he was up to his elbows in grease and really working on, and he's a senior in school still and gets half of his day out, and he's only spends a little bit of time in school, but he's out learning this type of job skill right now at 17. I wouldn't know the first place to start if I'm looking to, dive into this piece of machinery real quick right here. I could tell you roughly how to change a tire because it'd be similar to a car, yes, but they're changing like valves and things like that. And on that same line, someone who goes into plumbing at 17, 18 years old, goes in a couple of years, opens up their own business, becomes an entrepreneur at 24. Listen, you and I both know, everyone listening knows, the North Country winters have your pipes freeze at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock on a Sunday night when it's minus 20 out and you have no water. And you know what? You're a homeowner and you need to get that fixed because you need to look out for your family. Well, that's not going to be a little bill when that person's done coming to your house at 8 o'clock on a Sunday night when it's that cold or that time of the year at that hour on that day. That's going to be a pretty penny that you're going to pay to have someone come out there and fix that. And guess what? That person who came out here and fixed that didn't go get a 4-year degree. They learned valuable life lessons right out of high school. They learned a trade, and now they're excelling at their trade. They did their time. They paid their dues, which a lot of people, especially younger adults, don't. They feel that sense of entitlement. But you're 19, 20. Shadow someone like you were talking about. Shadow, be an apprentice. Get an apprenticeship and be a. I don't know if it's a foreman, if that's the person who's just kind of out. They're not in charge yet, but you're just out going to jobs and fixing jobs, and then, who knows? A couple of years you can open up your own thing, and then that person who had this. Granted, I get it. You need the degree for a doctor, some lawyer, different things, but it's like, hey, yeah, man, I didn't go get an education, but here's your tab for that for my past 2 hours on this Sunday night fixing your pipes. Yeah.
No, I think trades are phenomenal. I think if you can do it, and I've told a lot of people that I've done. I do a couple career. Actually, they're coming up in the next couple of weeks. A couple career fairs for just I think one's more for the high school and one's more elementary. But when I go for the ones the kids are doing high school, like no offense, there's not many kids that are like, I want to do real estate in high school, and I totally get it. I was 100% on that boat at the time. But a lot of these kids, I'm like, hey, what are you doing after school? And someone's like, I don't know. I said, I'm a senior. I said, oh, you going to college? You join the workforce? Like, what are you doing? Like, well, I don't really want to go to college. And I'm always like, okay, go learn a trade. Like, the first thing I tell kids is, like, 1, don't go into debt, and 2, go learn a trade. Like, if you be smart, like, if you need to go to college or want to go to college, like, Plattsburgh State is actually a very good school. And I get it. Some kids want to move away, and that's a great experience, as you can, probably attest to. But the idea that you can go and come out of a job and get right to, making money versus paying somebody off now in the form of debt, you're well beyond and on your way to great things. I think I know it's kind of a cliche thing to say, but it really is who you know, not what you know. I mean, you do need to know some stuff, true. But God, some of my best business. Now, granted, I have knowledge to back it up, but I'm not getting in the door without knowing people. You know what I mean? And that's, I think a lot of people, especially in our industry, and I know when you talk to so many people, it's like, it helps to have connections with people.
It really does.
Or also, kind of have a personal level where you can have a connection that's not just business. Because I'm very big on, like, when you go to the networking events, I very rarely talk business. I usually we talk about whatever.
Talk about whatever.
Yeah.
So most times people don't want to talk about business. They talk about their business all day. And you know what? It's a lot of, at the end of the day, it's at these like we at the business after hours and different things that we do. It's, hey, I just want to unwind. Hey, how's the kids, man? How are they doing? Yeah, how Little League, how's it going? First couple of games, I saw on Facebook your kid had a no-hitter the other night. But that's how in business, that's how business comes is, people do business with people they like.
100%. And trust.
Yeah, like and trust. If I am aware of you, I then have to like you, and then I have to trust you, and then I'm going to try whatever you have.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to try it because I like you and I trust you. I'm not just going to meet you on the street and say, hey, check out this product. This is, going to make you a $500 extra $500 this week if you just post about it on social media one time.
Yeah.
all right, man, that sounds cool, but I don't really know you, so I'm not going to really do that.
Yeah.
Or if you take your best buddies, like, hey, bro, this right here, I'm telling you, this is making an extra $500 this week.
Real deal.
Just post this once. Dude, I'm in.
Yeah.
Because I like you, I know you, and I trust you. You know, I don't trust you. So I mean, you could be walking around in a flashy suit and look like you have all this money. Who knows? But I trust you, so I'm gonna try you.
What? No, 100%. And like I said, we kind of got away from it, but going back to it now, like, what do you do? Like, what's your job entail? What's kind of a day in the life of John?
A day in the life of John at SeaComm is, I'll get to the office this morning. Like I said, my title is Business Development Representative. So I'm kind of the face for the credit union out in the community. And one thing I don't do is sales. I don't go to businesses and sell. But I'll kind of just business prospect in the morning. I log I have an Excel spreadsheet of all who I've talked to the past couple months, been on the job about 6 months now. And I list who I need to follow up with, who I'd like to go visit. I try to research owners of now we're talking local businesses, locally owned and operated. And I'm not out there to drop into AutoZone or JCPenney's and try to build relationships there. But what I'm out for is the local garage, construction, diesel repair. I do, the local little restaurant, even a little ice cream stand, just always out and about in the community on a daily basis. I'll hit the road at about 9:30, 10 and come back about 3:34. And in that time, I'm just out on the road. I'm very blessed to have the freedom of being able to all over Clinton County, travel whatever I want to do. If I want to come in the office and say, all right, I'm going to go down to Keysville today. I'm going to go down to Keysville, or I'm going to shoot up to Champlain, Moores Forks area today. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm just out on the road a lot, building relationships in the community, dropping by, trying to meet the owner, just helping spread the word about the credit union. But when I first go into a business, I'm not like, hey, how's your guys' bank accounts? How's things going? This is the type of product we have, because that's an instant turnoff for a lot of people. They don't want to have someone coming through the door being pushy. Mm-hmm. So I'm just in there and I'll literally, hey, how's it going? I'm John with the credit union in Plattsburgh, and how's things going? I just like to do my best to meet a lot of locally owned and operated business owners such as yourself, and shoot the breeze for a minute. And how are you? And I've been pleasantly surprised at how friendly and the amount of hospitality that a lot of business owners have around here. Mm-hmm. My boss Jerry, he would mention, yeah, you're going to be surprised.
Is that the guy that spoke?
Yes,
okay.
He spoke on Another Country Connection.
Yeah, very nice guy.
Yeah, great guy, and really good role model for the position. He spoke. You're going to be pleasantly surprised at how many people really, they're glad to have you. They'll thank you for stopping by. And I'll have people, on top of businesses that are already there, I'll also get the county, the new DBA list from the county every month for the prior month of new businesses in the area, doing business as. And that involves, which is a little more, to a lot of people, and to me at first, it's a little more scary. I'm knocking on someone's actual doorstep, being like, hey, noticed you opened up, X, Y, and Z.
Bait and tackle
exactly.
Yep.
Or with this an artesian candles or something like that. Like, I just want sure to drop by and wish you the best of luck. And, how's things going? So what is it exactly? And a lot of people, except it was tough in the dead of winter, because that's really tough to do, because people open the door just a little bit. But now that the weather's nice, I'm so surprised, and it's so how welcoming people are. Like, hey, I've gone into people's homes. They'll open their door, they'll come out on their doorstep and talk to me and just say, hi, how things are, what they'll talk to me about their business and what's going on and what is it exactly. And, so then next thing you know, we'll talk for 20 minutes and they'll be like, so you're with the credit union? And they're like, SeaComm, they're like, where's that? They have no idea who I even was. They forgot what I even came here for. Mm-hmm. But those past 20 minutes, I just established a good relationship for you. Then, hey, you know what? Maybe I might need a checking account, which for every business you do or anything of that nature. And I have people all the time that ask me, so you'll be driving by, and you'll just drop into a garage on the side of the road, like a little mom and pop garage, and just drop in and say hi. I'm like, yeah. They're like, wow, how do you do that? And I tell them, you just, in order to change and to grow and to become better, you got to get uncomfortable.
Oh, hell yeah.
And, as you know, and at first, was that super uncomfortable? Absolutely. But you know what? Some positive self-talk and some old Tom Bull, green. Before I get out of the car, let's go in and do this, because we as humans, we're a little afraid of rejection. And I could walk in here and they could not want anything to do with me, you know. But it's nerve-wracking. But now I really enjoy it. I actually love it. So just dropping in.
How many months now?
About 6.
6.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of things, like you said, if you're going to the new businesses that have been only open for a month, that's a huge thing. You have someone stop by. You know what I mean? Like, I think it says a lot about, especially if you're, depending if you're small or even if you're a semi-big company or whatever. You know, but I mean, they're like maybe not at someone's house, but they have a storefront or they have
right.
But even just dropping in, like in the first month, that's kind of cool for a new business up and running, because it's like, oh, well, yeah, thanks for stopping in, or we appreciate it, or oh, you knew about us. That's awesome. And kind of what you said before, like, I remember it's different. I mean, I wasn't going, door to door like you were doing or for businesses, but talking to people on the phone, I was like, like you get jumbled, and it's kind of funny. I get some like new agents that I'm training, and I just, I'm sitting back, and I know the wheels are about to come off the car, or come off the track, and it's just like, I'm just gonna sit back and just watch them, because I did the same or worse, and you watch them. They talk too quick, they make a mistake, they ask something bad, they say something wrong, and it's like, you know what? You got better. Let's do the next one. You got better. And then it gets to the point where, like, now you showing up, like, you've heard so many stories that you are able to adapt to the conversation. You're able to adapt to the person. Because, like, I meet a lot of people. I've met a lot of different personalities. Some good, some bad. Some people I've absolutely, I came from an appointment right before this. The people were phenomenal. It was so much fun. Like, I left and we were talking about God knows what. It had nothing to do with the business, like with work, but it was.
Of course.
But then there's sometimes you're like painful. You want to get out, but every encounter makes you better and makes you learn. And I think that's like you said, a valuable skill in the sense of now that you're 100% confident, you could pretty much roll up on anybody right now, and you'll be able to talk and you'll be fine. Yeah,
absolutely. And I know you're really great at that as well. I mean, we've kind of developed that. So prime example is, just today. I roll up on a garage and there's a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old working in there. I instantly got to know how to conversate with that, how to work. Man, they had brand new dirt bikes, and so so I'm like, all right. So I kind of get going with these guys because look at I'm a guy's guy.
Yep.
I'm like, hey. I'm like, so which one you guys got when asked over TCAT on one of these first? And they each point to the other one because there were skid marks on the new bike, and like, you see it right here.
Yeah.
This is where he got his ass kicked on the bike,
Yep.
And they started to love it. They're like, all right, this guy is like cool. But then I also have to know how to shift gears, because if I'll drop into a lot of organizations and say, if I'm dropping into the North Country Mission of Hope, just to say hi, see how things are going, and that's a totally different conversation.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's a totally different conversation than if I'm dropping into the diesel mechanic shop, right? There's two totally different social,
different lingo going around.
Different lingo going there, and there's different social cues going there, and there's going to be a different conversation had there. Mm-hmm. And through my job, I've just gained incredible experience, just picking up on social cues and figuring out how to extend a conversation. And you can tell, figuring out, okay, this person wants to chat for a little bit. I'm going to have to be the one that's, it's 45 minutes later, hour later. All right, I'll let you go now. Looks like you got to get back to work for the boss gets back. Mm-hmm. Or, okay, they're all set with me. They're, I've come in here, did my thing. I'm gonna let them go and follow up maybe a couple months later, just see how things are going. But there's two like we talked about. There's a much different way with a different crowd you have.
I think you when you talked about the boys with the dirt bike, I think the funny thing about that is when I first got in the business, man, I was so stiff. Meaning I was like, I got to act a certain way. I got to talk a certain way. I mean, I was young. I was 20, and it was like I had to act a certain way in this big professional business that I grew up hearing about because my dad did it. But I was like, I always felt that when I started that I was young. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to really like stay in line and not get out. Now, any agent that knows me or any mm-hmm. person I've dealt with, like I am not very like reserved. I probably There's stuff that I probably do that maybe like you wouldn't put in a textbook or handbook as like, but at the end of the day, like I really try to act myself. Meaning, if you see me here on the podcast, you see me at a networking event, if you see me in front of clients, I'm doing the same stuff. Like, and I found that my business I've had way more fun doing what I've been doing over the last couple of years because I've just like allowed myself just to be myself. But then also like I think that people genuinely like that. Meaning like when you're talking to the kids, like how you would normally if you weren't in a business setting, if you took off the suit and you were just sitting there hanging out with them shooting the shit, or they were working on your car, you wouldn't be talking like sales. You'd be saying the same thing about which kid went over the dirt bike first. And I think that goes a long ways because it drops that level of. You need professionalism, but you got to break that wall. Meaning you got to, like you said, like you got to adapt to the person you're talking to, and once they hear you start saying something like that, it's instantly like
they're like, all right, he can relate.
The guard is dropped.
He can relate. Yeah, because I roll up within a suit. A lot of times, not a full suit, but I'll mismatch the pants and jacket, and people are like, okay, what are you here? You're here to either. What kind of money you want to take? Tell me something. Are you a lawyer? Who's in trouble? Are you the IRS? Are you the FBI? Are you this? Are you that? But then you can instantly you got to be able to relate. And I, being from the North Country, it really helps that. And I credit a lot of that to my first job at Freedom Fence back, and I did 3 summers at Freedom Fence, and we would talk about stuff that. 10 guys putting up fence poles and digging holes all day are going to talk about.
Yep.
There's going to be some stuff, and that diesel mechanic shop or that construction garage, that trucking and excavating company. Back. Yeah, they're they're talking about a lot of that same stuff. So being able to relate and just when I don't come off as salesy and trying to just push something on them, push a product on them, they're just comfortable and they're opening up, and then next thing you know, we're talking about where they're slugging beers this weekend. So it's great. So that's kind of a typical day. Is I'm just always out on the road, just out building relationships and working on a lot about trying to set up financial literacy presentations as well. I know we touched on this earlier.
Yeah, because you did one for a local group of kids.
Yeah, I did one at Clinton Community College a couple weeks ago, and right now I've got about 7 or 8 lined up for Seniors Against Fraud at different with the Senior Nutrition. The Senior Citizen Council of Clinton County and the nutrition program that I go to, kind of like a lunch and learn, and we just talk about basic fraud, what's out there, how to avoid it and things of that nature. So, but I'm working on getting to some of the local high schools to get into the classroom, teaching kids about what they're not getting taught and those life skills of budgeting. Back on that topic, I guess, budgeting, savings, debit cards, credit cards, credit score, how credit score affects a lot more than you ever thought. So that's also a big part of my job is I'm out on the road trying to set those up and also performing those.
Yeah, or not opening up a credit card. Because a lot of kids don't know or don't realize too that like if you don't have a credit card, you have no credit.
Yes, and if you don't have a credit card, and the importance of start establishing credit early. And we dive right into the 5 major factors that are affect your score the most. And we talk about, like you touched on earlier, compound interest and interest on. So this is how this works, Junior. You want that car. Okay, so we're taking out a loan for $5,000 over 5 years at 5%. So let's do the math on that. Oh, how much is this car going to cost? Well, I mean, I'm taking it for $5,000, With interest, though, that's going to cost us an extra $250 a year. So we're going to be at $1,250. So for the course of interest over the 5 years. So now that $5,000 car, if we make our monthly payments, the minimum monthly payment for 5 years is going to cost us $6,250. And just kind of getting kids to kind of grasp that concept of interest and how that works, and just kind of how ways to decrease interest, whether you decrease principal, decrease time, or decrease your rate, which gets tied back into, okay, better rate, better credit score. I save more and budget more. I have more money. I get to decrease my principal. So we dive. I like to dive pretty good into that with them and try to relate, once again, relate to my audience about how, hey, so you guys are getting out, you just got your first job. You want that cool Jeep, that $50,000, $60,000 Jeep. You want to put 22s on it. You want to put a lift kit on it. You want to tint it. Okay, just remember, you also need to keep a roof over your head. You also need to keep food in your stomach. You also may want to live, have a good time here and there. You also need to do, put away 10% for you and, build up a little bit of a nest egg, and also, everything else that just life entails.
Yeah, 100%. No, I'm glad you're doing that, because I think it's nice.
I love doing it.
Well, I think that's cool about you too is you can still relate to a lot of guys or kids. Like you come in as a younger guy and you're talking to kids that maybe they're within 10 years of you, you know, that goes a long ways versus getting someone that's their parents' age coming in. They're like, okay, well, here we're listening to mom or dad kind of talk. And I think I've always like gravitated towards like when I do the things with the kids, like the career day, like me being, I mean, for most of those kids, say 15 years older, but they still look at you like you're not super old, you know?
Right.
So it's kind of cool. Like if you go to college, like they're 5-6 years behind you, but it's like you have perfect, you can really relate to them and they can look at you and say, yeah, okay, this guy I can trust because he just went through the same stuff we're going through, and you can actually back it up and say, yeah, I went through this, and here's some wisdom for you guys from about 5-6 years down the road. That's great. I think the more you can do that, the better it's going to be.
It's really great. Kids. And a lot of 98% of what I talked about I've learned through just life as well. That's not even education. I learned about I taught myself a lot about credit scores and credit cards and how to effectively use a credit card. Because my parents were always great with, okay, get yourself a credit card, never carry a balance, never get yourself in credit card debt. And I really, adhered to their advice on that, and then dove in even deeper and really learned about it. And those were things I also didn't learn even in post education as well in college. And those were just things that you learn just work getting through life and living life.
Yeah. I've been, knock on wood, I've gone 29 years. I've never had credit card debt. I mean, I have.
Oh, that's awesome.
I might. Yeah. I mean, I've never missed payments. I've never not. It's just something. But you said it's like live within your means, and
that's the number one rule of my presentations: live below your means.
Live below your
means. Yeah. Everything ties back into the number one rule: living below your means.
Yep. Great. So switching gears here. Anybody that has ever met you knows you're a little bit smaller than me, but you're getting there. But no, John's a pretty fit individual. So we talked about, obviously you played football in college. I'm sure you did some working out and stuff in a high school leading up to football and maybe even baseball. But kind of go through your fitness journey. So I know kind of where you're at now, but I know that wasn't always there. So kind of give us your background on, because this is obviously a passion of yours also. So kind of where you started and then where you're at now.
Sure. Fitness journey really started back when, I credit all to my dad, Shannon. We, back in our younger days, even modified, PAL football. He's like, hey, boys, start doing some push-ups in between commercials because, you're going to need to start getting, want to put on strength. You get stronger as you get going. And it all kind of started with that, a little bit of wall sits in the basement, just, kind of meaningless type stuff. But look, in hindsight, it was all right. But we really dove into the weight room. I believe it was about, it could have been 8th or 9th grade. My father was a bodybuilder back in his heyday, and did a lot of sports and exercise and worked out a lot. So we kind of I was lucky enough to have him as kind of a foundation. Everything we would do was just with the bar until we had 4 sets of 10 with great form. And the first time I ever back squatted was, like I said, that 8th or 9th grade year. 4 sets of 10 with just the bar, and the next day you couldn't walk down the stairs. And I was like, wow, that was just the bar. And then we were kind of hooked on it ever since, because you could see yourself growing. And we would work out heavily between the winters and summers, because the winters I didn't do a sport, obviously just did football and baseball. So, I would have a couple lifting buddies, and we would, every day after school in the winter, we would just train. Once my father felt like we knew what we were doing on our own, we would find some different programs online, different football programs. We'd stayed away from the bodybuilding in high school and slowly worked our way into the Olympic lifts, which we also see in CrossFit. Power cleans, hang cleans, squat cleans. We would do a lot of that stuff because I was also fortunate to have a platform at the Beekman Fitness Center to where we were able to drop barbells with rubber weights. So we would train every day after school, and even during baseball season, and especially in the summer, we do a lot of running in the summer, just to try to always, because someone would always say, however good or however hard you think you're training, someone out there is always working harder. Mm-hmm. If you're slacking or kind of missing reps, what he would say, that kid from Saranac Lake or that kid from Saranac, he's in the gym right now working out while you're not, right? And so we would we would train a lot, and that kind of carried us through school, which I attribute a lot of, being a successful football player to a lot of time in the weight room. And because not saying is it absolutely necessary, 100% necessary, no, because a lot of kids didn't. If you're a 3-sport athlete, you didn't play, but I really enjoyed playing football and really enjoyed exercising and being physically fit and stronger. And then carrying into college, Springfield College is known for exercise science. We're one of the best strength and conditioning schools in the country. A lot of top-notch places, any collegiate, big-time collegiate or pro team sees Springfield College on an applicant's resume, that stands out. Springfield College is known in the strength and conditioning world for strength and conditioning and producing some world-class coaches. So we would have world-class coaches that coached us at Springfield and developed world-class programming. Especially in our off season between usually lifting 3 days a week and plyometrics and running 2 days a week, I was able to really hone in more on the Olympic lifts and become stronger. And right now, I actually weigh about 190, but at my heaviest, I was, part of the, we used to call us the 250 boys. I was about 250.
Shit. Were you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And that's when on a side note, I finished my career on the offensive line. But we ran the triple option at Springfield. So any of those listeners, if like Navy, Georgia Tech, their offense, we didn't huddle. So we didn't have the stereotypical 6'5", 320-pound, blindside tackle. We didn't do that because I could count on one hand how many times a game we threw. So going through school, we would train a lot too, and I was really able to excel at Olympic lifts and get stronger and just be so meaty. But of course, as I graduated, I then thinned out and trained, laid off the wagon really for about a year outside of school.
Oh, really? Just nothing?
Didn't do much.
Wow,
Was doing some push-ups and stuff, but I was like, man, I got to get back into this. I'm starting to not really enjoy the way I look. Mm-hmm. And just exercising and fitness has been a passion of mine. So I'm like, why am I giving up on this now? So we joined in LA. Planet Fitness actually had the lunk alarm, rang on me once and never went back. Was done. So we all know the lunk alarm at P-Fit, right? I mean, come on.
I know what it is, and I've never been to Planet Fitness.
Oh, yeah.
I know what it is, though, yes.
Yeah, so they rang, and I was like, all right, I'm all set. So then we signed up at LA Fitness when I was in Connecticut, and we would just train straight. My buddy Brian and we would train straight bodybuilding. I mean, the typical Monday chest, Tuesday back and buys, I think, Wednesday legs, Thursday shoulders, Friday gun show. And it was for months we did that, and we got strong too and big. Going back, if you go back to the Instagram, we were looking cool, and that's when I started to start doing some really kind of cool stuff. And on the Instagram, I got some cool stuff on there, and then I transitioned to a more functional fitness place down in Connecticut, Rebel Fitness, which I'm actually going down there to do the CrossFit Murph Challenge. The 1 mile run, 100 push-ups, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 air squats with a 20-pound vest in honor of Lieutenant Michael
another
Murphy.
Mile run.
Yeah, who passed away in, was it Iraqi Freedom? I believe it was.
Yeah.
And and another mile run after that. So I'm doing that down there. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going down there at the end of this month. So, and then I've trained there for a while and gained a lot more functional fitness type sledgehammers, kettlebells we incorporated there, flipping tires. And then when I moved back in June of 2017, I kind of made the transition to CrossFit because my dad and some of my family members were doing it, as well as a couple buddies. And I got then I got into CrossFit and had the base of the Olympic movements, the power clean, the squat snatch, the split jerk from my background, and it was able to pick up the gymnastic stuff, the muscle ups, the ring muscle ups, the handstand push ups, all that kind of stuff, and then able to transition that. And now hook, line, and sinker, as they say with CrossFit. Like, I drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago, and I'm still drinking it, man. I love it.
No, that's great. Yeah, so I wasn't sure. I figured with football, that's kind of that whole journey right there is basically what I thought that you would have said. But yeah, so I joke. Anybody that's seen John compared to me knows that John is way bigger and stronger than I am. But I didn't start working out until I played sports my whole life, but it wasn't until probably maybe my freshman year of college. actually sophomore year of college that I really was like, I got to start doing something. I wasn't playing sports anymore, and I just couldn't, I just was feeling out of shape. And I think if you grow up playing sports your whole life, you want to, still stay active. And I knew the benefit of exercise and benefit of staying active and not becoming, kind of a couch potato or just play video games all day. So I ended up doing some stuff, did some I did like semi bodybuilding splits, but they weren't. I mean, I did it by myself and I had very limited knowledge, and then ended up kind of doing some more compound lifts in the sense of like squats and deadlifts and cleans and things. And they weren't, trust me, they weren't great.
Yeah, sure.
But I ended up finding CrossFit in 2000. Oh God, I think October 2011. So this is pretty good time or distance back.
Yep.
And I ended up starting to do it in about December of 2011. I actually found out about it from a guy. A guy told me about it in actually, I'll back up, May 2011. A guy told me about it. So we're 2009. So 8 years ago, or 19, 8 years ago. Found out about it. Looked up the website. The first day I looked at it was deadlift 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So 5 by 5 deadlift, and that was it. And I'm like, that's stupid. That's all we're doing. And then I went back, like the day before was Helen, which is running pull-ups and kettlebell swings. And it ended up just, I'm looking at it, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, and I didn't understand the methodology at that point. And it wasn't until October of 2011, I was at a real estate conference out in California. And there was like one day I had nothing going on. So I was in the room and I came across the behind the scenes of the 2011 games. So like first year Rich won. So I'm like watching this thing. You got Rich and Dan Bailey and Khalifa and all these guys. And I'm like these guys are like fucking, they're jacked. And like, yeah. But it wasn't just like they were good at lifting weights. They were doing they were doing the gymnastics. They were doing the running. And I'm like, I always wanted to train like an athlete kind of deal. Mm-hmm. Like I always felt better when I was playing sports. Still to this day, I'm not big into like bodybuilding or anything. I never wanted to do that. I didn't really care about the aesthetic part of anything with working out. It was always like I just want to be healthy and be able to perform still like I was performing in high school with more of a strength background. So that's where I started, and kind of the whole. I mean, I ended up getting hooked up with the guy that owns our gym, John, in. Man, I think early 2013. So I've been doing this for a little over a year, and the gym opened in April of 2013, and I've been there since. But I think it's phenomenal. I know some people like it, some people don't. But I think at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in just do whatever. As long as you're moving and doing something, just do something. Like don't just sit around. Like be active. But I think that CrossFit is, in my eyes, the best thing to do in the sense that it from a well-rounded standpoint, from a longevity standpoint, and also from a community standpoint, which I think is the most important part. Yep. And I think people that lift and do everything, it's like I go to the 5:30 a.m. Well, I try to go with 5:30 a.m. classes, but some days I get out of bed and go. Days I don't want to because I know I know there's people that are going to be there, mm-hmm. and I'm like, you know what? They're going to go. I might as well get up and might be tired, didn't sleep much the night before, but I get up and I force myself to go to it. But that's the community aspect. I'm not getting up going to the gym by myself at 5:30 in the morning. Like, I mean, some days, but there's so many days I would just can that so quickly. So what's your favorite part of, I mean, obviously you like CrossFit now. So what's your favorite part of CrossFit now?
My favorite part of CrossFit is that CrossFit's specialty is not specializing. So as you touched on, a little bit before, it's with the Helen and the different workouts that you see in the 5x5. What some people don't realize is that, CrossFit's main goal is to, increase your work capacity across broad times in multiple domains. What that means is broad times. We could have a workout that is going to whoop your ass and it's only 3 minutes long. Or we could have a workout that's going to whoop your ass and it's 30 minutes long. Model domains being, okay, we're going to work out today is going to be a 5K run. That's it. That's all we're going to do. But tomorrow, then we're going to head to that 5x5 deadlift, getting to your heaviest set of 5. It just incorporates everything. Then the following day, we're going to see how many times you can, we haven't touched the rig yet, so we're going to go up on the rig. and we're going to do some pull-ups. We're going to do some muscle-ups. We're going to do different things on the rig. And there's so many different combinations to the sport there between the cardiovascular piece and the conditioning pieces, which is essentially the same thing, the strength pieces, the gymnastics piece, the Olympic lifting pieces. There's so many different formalities that you can do with CrossFit and so many different combinations, and everything's always just so different. And that's what I always tell people if they want to try CrossFit. You can't just go to CrossFit 1 day, 2 days and be like, okay, love it or hate it. Because that one day you could be doing a 5x5 and that's all you're doing. But that 5x5 is meant to be an absolute all you got. All we're looking for is all you got here. And then you could get to the next day to where we're going to have a 25-minute workout along with a 5x5 in front of that of a different movement. And this 25-minute workout is going to be how many rounds can you go through of 20 wall balls, 10 pull-ups, and 8 handstand push-ups. How many times you're working straight for 20 minutes? How many times can we go through that? And you're going to get yourself a hell of a workout. And I didn't even look at a barbell through that 25-minute workout. I didn't look at a barbell. You can have a hell of a workout, and I didn't even look at the rig or look at anything to do with my body weight. I just did a barbell. Or, we can have tomorrow we have a workout that's just bike and push-ups and lunges and air squats. It's straight body weight. But if you attack the stimulus as it's supposed to be attacked, you're going to be toast. And so you kind of have to give CrossFit a chance, really, because there's just a bunch of different modalities and different time domains and different movements that just keep it so spiced up. And if CrossFit's thing is if you have a weakness, it's going to find it. I'm sure you can attest to that, whether it's the open or a workout. And it's just becoming good at everything. And it's very functional. And you're not going to be the biggest guy in the room, but you know what? If there's a situation to where I need to go run up the mountain as fast as I can, I'd rather have the CrossFitter than the bodybuilder who's just going in there doing 3 sets of 5 by legs and then sitting on the hamstring curl machine for 3 sets of 10 with 3 minutes in between each rep, and then hitting some quad extensions and then calf raises. So it's very functional, like you said, and helps for longevity of life. So
yeah, I mean, I've like I said, I can attest to all that. I think the that's one thing I looked at. Like I find there's a couple cool things. I think that CrossFit, from a standpoint of, I think the benefits, everything changes, meaning you don't get bored of it ever. I mean, have I repeated workouts? 100%, but the amount of workouts that I repeat in a year is way under 10.
Yeah,
way under. Maybe I can count on one hand. I mean, yes, I've done them, but not in. You could go years without. All of a sudden, I look back. I'm like, last time I did that was 2015. Really? But the thing is, because you're always changing reps. You're changing the time. You're changing the weight. You're changing the order. You're changing. I mean, you name it, you can change it. Yeah. Like once you have the general idea of what you're doing, you can mix, match, and there's so much fun in programming.
Oh,
and
so fun.
I've talked to guys about this before. It's like, man, just like changing a movement or going from a 95-pound barbell to a 115-pound barbell. Totally different workout.
Yeah. Or I was going to say, I don't want to cut you out, but on the same reps of that. So you look at, say, Helen, right? Is a 400-meter run. I believe it's 21 kettlebell swings and 12 pull-ups. You could do that 3 rounds for time. You can make a completely different workout. Let's call it, Olga. It's Helen's sister. Let's go a 1,200-meter run, 63 kettlebell swings, and 36 pull-ups for time. Now we're doing all the running first, all the kettlebell swings, and all the pull-ups. That's the same movements, but you just change up. All we did was
totally different,
and it's a totally different workout. You're attacking it totally differently, as you can attest to, with just a slight change in things. Yeah,
because to be honest, like you can do Helen unbroken. Helen is very easily done unbroken. You're not doing that unbroken. Like
no.
You're not doing 63 swings and then jumping up and doing 36 pull-ups. I mean, your forearms are shot at that point.
Right.
And I think that's one of the good things. And I was actually, it wasn't anybody local, but I heard this. I mean, we know what Fran is. And I think this was a story I heard Chris Spieler tell once. And Chris Spieler, if anybody knows, he's a legend within the CrossFit community. So he guy told him, and Fran is 21 reps, 15 reps, 9 reps of thrusters and pull-ups. And the guy said something to the effect of, I want to do something. I want to do whatever it was. I forgot what the bet was. And he goes, here, if you can break 2 minutes, I'll give you 10-pound dumbbells. You're doing Fran, so you're doing 10-pound. So basically, in essence, 20-pound thruster with pull-ups, same rep scheme and everything else. If you can break 2 minutes, we can do whatever you want the rest of the class, meaning he wanted to change something later on.
Sure.
The guy got like 158 or something and laid on the ground for like 20 minutes, got up and left. Because the thing is, he worked out for less than 2 minutes, but he was so much at his threshold. That way, I mean, 20 pounds is nothing. But when you're doing it at this, and I'm sure he was pulling the weight down as fast as he was pushing it up.
Yep.
By the time you're done that in 2 minutes, you have redlined from basically 20 seconds in on.
Yep.
And your body can only sustain so much. Where, again, take the same thing, you go, we know it's a 95-pound thruster, move it up to a 115 or a 135-pound thruster with chest-to-bar pull-ups. You're not going under 2 minutes. That could end up being a 6-7 minute workout by the time you get done.
That's all of a 6-7 minute workout.
Yeah, and then you look at that and you're like, all you did was change a couple things. And to be honest, I've never done that. I mean, I've done.
That sounds horrible, by the way. If anyone's out there who knows CrossFit, 21:59 Fran with that's Fran on steroids. If
I don't
even
know.
a 115-pound bar, even just honestly something as simple as bumping chin over bar to chest over bar, that's night and day.
Oh,
at that amount of reps, 21:59 at that amount of reps, that's a whirlwind.
Yeah, and I think so I mean that's part of the fun to me is like the switching up. We talked about the community aspect of the accountability aspect, because I mean I've met some great friends through CrossFit. I've seen people that go to the gym because they're texting their friends at what time they're going to the gym so they can keep each other accountable, and that's phenomenal. Because I would say most people that do CrossFit, you go to like you talked about Planet Fitness. What is their retention rate of the New Year's Eve resolution people or whatever, the average gym member? They'll say a year membership, no, you're not going to come in, and that's how they make their money. And the next year they replenish and go in. So, something like CrossFit, if you take your membership, I guarantee that 80 to 90% of your members are going 3, 4, 5 days a week consistently. And if Johnny doesn't show up for class, people are like, why is Johnny not at the 5:30 class? You know what I mean? Because like you almost like your buddies. You're like, wait, what happened to? How come he's not here today? Like it's not looked at as normal when you miss a class. Like that's kind of like the odd thing. You're like, wait, I thought he was coming. What is he doing today? Oh, that's right, he's on a trip today. Like people know that about you because to me you have like the tight knit community aspect. And I think you had said this prior. The idea that if anybody that goes to CrossFit, anybody that sticks with CrossFit, and I think really to give it a fair shot, you have to go 3 months. Just fully see a full like.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
Yeah, like I even think 1 month is not enough, and I think could you go? I think a year is phenomenal if you can stomach going a full year. But I think the ones that really get over the hump are the ones that can commit to 3 months, not go a month and leave. But what happens is the people that you want at the gym and the people that have the mindset to go and work out at CrossFit, the ones that should be there stay, the ones that shouldn't leave. Meaning like it weeds out the weak links anyway. So the people that really stick with it, most of them are I would say very much like go-getters. They have a very good mindset. They're very much at like self-improvement. They have a very good attitude. They're usually in my experience more humble in the sense that they're not bragging about their times. But at the end of the day, I mean, we both have coached it. We could have the guy that's been there for 5 years and it's going to be the first one done. And I mean, good. Like I do your thing. Yep. But at the end of the day, someone just got their first pull up. Everybody in the gym would tag the first pull up more impressive than the guy that broke a PR on Fran. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that's part of the community aspect. And I think the fun of it is, I mean, you've done the Open. I've done the Open, and the Open's basically an online worldwide thing every late winter kind of deal. And it's so amazing to see someone get their first muscle up or first pull up or first toe to bar, or someone that does RX that didn't want to do RX. They're scared to death to go heavy on the weight. And finally, everybody's like, well, you got to do it because it's the Open. You got to do it. So they do it, and they excel at it. And it breaks that ceiling over them that they thought they couldn't ever break, meaning like, oh, wow, I can do 35-pound dumbbells for the female on thrusters or snatches or whatever it may be. I just think there's so much benefit in just the social aspect, you know, meaning people have, it's almost like a church.
Yep.
It's like, and people could call it a cult or whatever, but I really think it's a group of like-minded individuals that are trying to better themselves, trying to push others to better themselves. I'm sure guys are pushing you to push your limits just as much as you're doing to, and it could be the 60-year-old grandmother, you're telling her to push her limits, and she's screaming back at you to go do more reps in the open, and at the end of the day, it's all relative. And I think that the beauty of it is that people can all relate to certain aspects of it, in the sense that everybody that goes is just trying to get better. And that's, I think that at the end of the day, like I always go look at it like, how was my effort today? Not was I the first one done, or did I PR or whatever. I'm always like, how was my effort today? And I could have had like maybe a bad workout or a bad day, and I didn't sleep good or eat good or whatever, but then I showed up. But as long as I put forth a good effort that day, I'm satisfied. Like I can like check the box. I showed up. I did what I could that day. Tomorrow, hopefully come back and be better. So like, you've been doing this a lot, and kind of like, what's your mindset, or what have you seen a lot with, as you got into CrossFit? Because I'm sure it's made you a stronger mental person more than anything.
Yeah. And just to talk, you had a really great point with, in the open, you're first. Everyone always talks about their first, and they always remember their first. And that's kind of a CrossFit thing, is you always remember your first. And that's what kind of keeps you coming back to CrossFit is, what? Rather than your average Joe gym where I go in and run on the elliptical every day, or cycle on the bike and do some leg presses on the leg machine, getting my first muscle up, getting my first handstand push up, getting my first my first chest bar pull up, my first, just whatever, getting your first, that it absolutely hooks you, because you can then see, wow, 3 months ago, I couldn't even barely hold myself on the rig. Now I'm able to get my chin over the bar a couple times without having to fall off. And you just keep wanting more and more and more. So it just keeps getting people hooked. And a lot of people worry about when they start is, as a coach now, I still see it, and I like to spread awareness about CrossFit in the community because I'm in love with it. And I can't do that type of stuff. Look at it's intimidating. Like, it's intimidating. I can't lift that weight. I can't do those movements. Those weight and those movements that you're seeing done are the 0.02% out of 100 of the sport. Mm-hmm. Those people on TV, that is not going on in your everyday gym. Even people who are RXing a gym doing some higher scale gymnastics movements like ring muscle ups, heavier squat cleans, bar muscle ups, that is your 1% of that gym. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is, I'm the 50-year-old mom. I'm the 70-year-old. We have 70-year-old, grandmother in there who's just trying to stay healthy and stay fit and live a longer life. Mm-hmm. She's not doing that. We'll have, the dad who's 30 who's just trying to get a little workout and it's his first day. You know what? CrossFit's infinitely scalable. It's scaled down. You program for the best and you scale for the rest. Mm-hmm. So primarily, we have way more options for someone who is brand new or an intermediate to novice level more than we do someone who's the veteran. And like you touched on, someone gets that first muscle up, gets that first whatever, the gym's rallying. You got the spotlight, you're shining, mm-hmm. and that makes you feel so good when you get that encouragement. And if you're the last one working out on a workout, everyone else is done. Say it was 5 rounds for time, 3 rounds for time, or whatever it is, and you happen to be the last one. You're gonna have individuals over by you cheering you on, motivating you and keeping you ready to go. And it's just a sense of feeling valued in the gym it's what really keeps people coming back. And that's some of the best experiences that I've seen in the gym, and especially with the open. Some listeners may not know what the open is, but there's some magic in the open. Mm-hmm. A lot of people get their first big time gymnastics skilled movement in the open, and then they're like, holy shit, I'm hooked. I love this sport, because the crowd just went wild. Because if there's people in there watching, because it's a milestone, and then you're able to look back and say, wow, at a year ago it was open. This is the weight. This is the reps I was doing. 1 year later, this is the weight. I am now performing these movements. You can physically see how far you've come, and it's just that's so gratifying to so many athletes. Yeah,
I think like you just said, the tracking aspect of it is important too. I mean, we everything's timed. Everything, the weights are timed, or I say the weights are, the sets, weights, reps. every workout has a time to it. You're either trying to do a certain amount of reps within a certain time domain, or you're trying to do the certain amount of reps in the fastest time possible. And like I said, come back to that same exact workout. Don't change a thing. Come back a year. Were you better? Like, did you get fitter? And we kind of like take like a Murph. Every year you do Murph. Have you gotten better at Murph? Or now did you start at Murph with a band?
Yep.
Now you're doing Murph without a band. Or, even to the point where some people could be doing Murph, maybe they did a half Murph the year before, and this year they're doing a full Murph. It's like that's incredible. Like and to me, if you're throwing down with everybody, nobody cares. Like,
no one does
me,
care.
when you show up and there's 30, 40 people doing it, and you got people with bands, you got people doing push-ups on a bench, you have people, squatting to, a ball, or squatting
Absolutely.
to like a high box, or you have people, doing ring rows instead of pull-ups. Like, everybody's throwing down, the music's cranking, people are high-fiving, people are like sweating it out.
Yeah.
And at the end, everybody's having a beer and a burger, and we're all cheering it.
Yep.
And, you go in, and it's just like a sense of community and a sense of, it's just, there's so many good things. I think the biggest, you've heard this, probably not from that many people that have actually showed up, but a lot of people that run into you and probably think that, John does, they look at you and they probably are intimidated in the sense of, yeah, come do it. And they're like, well, you're in shape. I'm not in shape. And you get all these people on the outside that would say, well, when I get in shape, I'll come. And as soon as I hear that, I'm like,
a horrible one.
And I'm like, guys, I said the fastest way not to come is to say that, you know what I mean? Is to say I have to get in shape. You'll never do it. Just show up day one. That's the fastest way you're going to get in shape, is just show up.
Yep.
Nobody cares. It's funny when people come in and they'll see stuff, and I'm very quick to tell people, I'm like, I've been doing this for 8 years now. Like, you're not going to be doing any of this. I mean, think about it. It's been taking us 5, 6, 7, 8 years to get to this level. You're going to come in, you're going to be on a band, you're going to scale everything. You're going to be sore tomorrow, you're going to be sore the next day, you're going to be sore next week. But at the end of the day, keep coming for a year, you're going to be able to do this and this. And then in 2 years, you're going to be able to do all this. And in 3 years, you're going to be flying around in the rings, and you're going to be like, what the heck happened? Remember when so-and-so came in and they were 50 pounds heavier and out of shape? And it's such a progression. But I remember when I got my first pull-up, and I remember going to the gym after doing CrossFit for a year, and I was like, oh, some of my movements are really bad. So let me kind of let me work on the performance part of it and the actual, what's it called? Just the motor mechanics and positioning to get very good at it. But you've obviously run into that. I know you have as a probably not as much as a coach, but just out talking to people, or people that might mention it and they're like, well, you're crazy. I'm out of shape. I can't do that.
Yeah. And it's kind of like what I just said, really, with, the intimidation factor is huge. People really get intimidated by the movements that you do, and they see people doing those movements. Well, I can't do that, or I'll start next week when I get in shape. Or no, let's get accountable now, and people are going to start holding you accountable. And you hit the nail on the head with, when everyone's in there working out, no one cares what you're doing to scale down, as long as you're trying your best. As long as whatever you're doing, that fits you. That's suitable for you. That is the level of skill that right now, and condition level of skill, agility, coordination, strength, stamina, that is your ability right now. Mm-hmm. And that's his. Why is that his? And I tell people this all the time. We just had a new guy coming to the gym, a younger gentleman who's a senior in high school, and he's a big bodybuilder.
A little antsy, right?
Yeah, he looks good, man. He looks good. He's a bodybuilder, right? And he's a hardcore meal prep. And this kid's 18, but you would think he's 27 by the way his bodybuilding, his love for it. And so he pulls me aside the other day. He's fairly new. He's like, hey, man. He goes, so how many times do you train? He's like, because your numbers are just, you're blowing me and you're doing all this stuff and I'm not there. I'm like, man, you just started 72 hours ago. Yeah. This right here, this doesn't happen overnight. Mm-hmm. Okay. This takes a lot of practice. This takes, a lot of discipline. This is working on weaknesses. This is, creeping up on 2 years. Granted, I had a lot of experience before, with some of the movements and stuff, but, Rome wasn't built in a day, man. These guys are going to the games. They're not, obviously I'm not anywhere close to that, but you'll get there, but you just have, it's all about putting your time in too. And, taking the time to really give a valid effort and come in every day and be accountable for what you got.
Yeah, and I think, well, you said at the commitment level. I mean, like when I was really big into it, I say, because I've gone totally. I mean, back 6 years ago when the gym opened, I was in there 5 days a week. About 4 or 5 years ago, I was really good shape, tracking what I ate. I was going consistent. I was on doing cycles and things like that. And I was hitting numbers I haven't PR'd almost any lift in 5 years. And the thing is, like, it's just like, I probably peaked at 24, 25 years old. And then as life went on, I've just things have taken more priority over it than
absolutely.
And especially now with wife and kid and one on the way, I'm one of those guys now that if I can get up, show up at 5:30 and check the box that I showed up and did a relatively workout for me that day was relatively good, I'm good. At the rate I'm going, meaning just kind of maintaining fitness, I won't PR probably anything ever in CrossFit ever again. And I'm to the point now, I'm totally fine. Like my open has gone from, I think my best open finish, I think it was I was probably like 1,000 in the Northeast or just above that to in the world. Maybe it was like top 10,000 in the world, which if people put in perspective, there's like 200,000 people that did it.
Yeah.
That's pretty high. I might be around like 90 right now, and I'm totally fine with that. And it's one of those deals that I think as people progress like that kid, like your priorities change, meaning, I'm one, and if I show up and work out, I'm good. Like I just want to stay healthy, feel healthy, keep weight off, kind of have some energy throughout the day and just function better throughout the day. So I'm not 30, 40, 50 and my kids are running around and I'm gassed because I can't play sports or basketball with them or whatever. But then, like you said, you get this young kid that comes in and he's like, I want to get better. And that was me at one time. And don't get me wrong, like there's days I wish I was back to that level because it was so fun. Like
fun.
Yeah, like I could go up and I could string muscle ups and I could do, things unbroken and I could, clean and jerk all this weight. And now it's like, I'm not even close to that. You know what? I'm good. Like there's times I'm like, yeah, the second part, I'm good. I'm going to do the first part today. I'm just I'm going to be sore tomorrow. I'm out. Like, there's one the other day. Like Murph's coming up in like 3 weeks, to be honest. I might do a half Murph. It's to the point where, I just don't have the volume. Like,
yeah,
you have me do 200 push-ups in one day. I'm probably not coming back for 2 weeks. Like,
no, and that's the best thing with the sport is like, again, no one's ever gonna, the only bad workout you have is the one you didn't do. So if you're going out there, and of course life takes over, but the greatest thing with CrossFit is it's judgment free. Gyms are judgment free. People understand. People have kids. That's why we have everyone in there, from the grandmother who's just wants to be able to continue to sit down on her chair and then stand back up and not feel winded when she gets out of bed.
Or pick the grandkid up.
Yep. Or reach for something on the top shelf, all the way to the young fellow we got now who just joined, who is full of piss and vinegar and is a senior in high school and wants to take on the world in the military coming up. We have, and there's everyone from every walk of life in between, every background in between. And so it's something that as a coach, and one of the things as a coach I really love doing is finding those athletes who love to be pushed, because you'll have, there's a lot of athletes, like yourself, who are just going in there and, if I'm just going to get this done today, I'm just going to get it done. But there's some people who, if we're finishing with 1,000-meter sprint row to finish the workout, and you're kind of just, you're not in their face. I'm not a drill sergeant, but you set an expectation for them and you're on them and you're motivating them, and then they fall off
a little.
Yeah, they fall off that rower, like we like to call them CrossFit, sitting, and they're sizzling bacon on the ground, man. And there's just no better feeling than that. But yeah, that's one of the coaching things that I love. I've seen people and I love.
So you did your level 1 certificate or certification?
I did.
And that, where'd you go for that one?
Burlington, Mass.
Burlington,
Yeah, Mass.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure it wasn't
actually no. Yeah, they just had one in Burlington, Vermont too.
Yeah.
We just had a recent athlete get certified. Yeah, Burlington, Mass. I went down there. September. second week of September, and it was really fun. You got to meet some of the pros and talk to them and kind of get their journey. They've got L4s and level 4s, which level 4 is night and day from level 1. They dive so deep into just the programming and the movements and everything, and it was a really fun time. So went down there with a buddy of mine, Cody. We went down there. It made it kind of a guys' weekend. It was 8 to 5, and
it's a long day.
A lot of people say, "Oh, CrossFit, you can become a trainer in just the weekend course." I mean, sure you can, and not everyone's meant to be a trainer. You got to have. And just because you have your L1 doesn't, people go get their L1 just to get more familiar with the sport.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden a coach after you get your L1. That's by no means what it means. Being a good coach and just having your L1 and being able to, I'm a firm believer of, just because I'm good at something doesn't mean I can teach it. Like, I was a pretty decent football player. I enjoyed football, but I cannot coach football.
Yeah,
I know. I'll be the first one to tell you. Everyone's like, "Hey, what do you think about coaching?" And going back to the old stomping grounds, being midtown and coaching. I'm like, honestly, I'm not someone who's like, okay, they're killing us with this, and let's break down film and see what they do. I can't do that. I'm much more comfortable and have a stronger passion for being able to relate to CrossFit and being able to coach CrossFit. But on that same pattern, I'm pretty good at CrossFit and I'm able to coach it. But some people who are really good at it, I think we've all seen this, doesn't mean you can run a class. Because running a class is a lot more than just taking your own skills and abilities and being able to do your own thing to now controlling a room full of 20 people, demonstrating the whiteboard, being engaged with them, building relationships with your building relationships with your athletes. So then when you talk to them, they like you. So once they like you, they're going to trust you, because if you don't really establish that relationship, he's kind of saying something to me right now, but I don't really know him. So I don't really know, like, if this is, I guess he's a coach, right? But do I really know him? Do I really like him? So there's a lot of different things that just because you have the level 1 does not make you a coach by any means, but there's a ton of other, things behind that.
Yeah, when I got my L1 in December of 13.
Oh, ages ago.
Yeah, long time ago. This was at back when Reebok CrossFit 1 was still in Canton, and went there. Had a great time. We did the whole thing, and so it was eye opening because you learned a lot, and it was very cool. And like you said, I did a lot of coaching. I thought I thought I was a pretty good coach, or because I understood I wasn't the best athlete. I understood the movements, I understood the methodology, I understood. I coached soccer for 8 years at a high school, and this was right kind of in the middle of me coaching. Like, I had a very easy time speaking in front of crowds, meaning I coached, basically boys that were the age of 13 to probably like 16, 17 for 8 years. So, I was very comfortable in front of a crowd, very comfortable explaining stuff and trying to relate to people. And when you end up going to, again, a class of, it doesn't matter. You got, like you said, you got kids that are probably just getting out of high school to, 50, 60-year-olds, and you're teaching them all the same stuff. But as long as you can apply it, and I was able to, and I got a lot out of it, but I was able to explain the movements, and a lot of it's layman's terms. I was different than you. You had an exercise background. You took exercise classes. You took, kinesiology and all that kind of stuff. I didn't. I don't know anything about anatomy besides very, very, very low level or basic, but I understood the movements. I understood how to perform the movements correctly. I understood how those movements and how the adaptation works and how things affect and the stimulus of workouts. And I was able to, because at the end of the day, someone doesn't care, what's connected to here and what body part and all this and that. It's like, here, this is how to perform the movement. This is why we're doing the movement. This is the stimulus we want you to hit. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to get fitter or healthier or whatever.
Right.
So the idea is I always looked at it as, I'm not very, my terminology is probably not great when it comes to the body, but I can teach you how to perform an air squat, and I can teach you how to do an overhead squat correctly. And I was very proficient in teaching them the snatch and things, even more complex movements, because I took time to learn them. And the other thing is, which I think a good coach should be able to do, is they should be able to demonstrate all the movements correctly. Meaning, you shouldn't have a coach that I always kind of pride myself when I do workouts that I am going to depth. I am doing full range of motion. Because at the end of the day, people in the class, if they look at their coach not going all the way down on their squats, or they're looking at their coach maybe not getting their chest to the bar but counting some reps, or the toes to bar, maybe not repping themselves in a workout, that rubs off, and all of a sudden they now think they can take the easy road out. And I think a lot of it has to do with leading by example. And now I've and I think you'll love this. I took my L2 this past year, night and day from the L1. And I think as you get more into coaching, you take it. It's phenomenal. You will have more appreciation for how little you know. Meaning, like, I went there and I was like, I feel pretty confident. I was probably, like, I felt very bad. Now, granted, I wasn't like, I kind of lost a passion for coaching. I'm just not involved as much as I used to be. But it's the idea that there's a lot better that people can be doing. And it's funny because you're learning from professional coaches, and all of a sudden you take these little hints and tips and way to structure it, and like, man, okay, I can get much better at this. I think you'll excel. You'll have a great time if you do the L2, but it's the idea of just trying to apply it and really trying to focus it down on how to actually teach movements and teach them correctly and get people to really understand why they're doing, a push press, why they're squatting, why they're doing cleans or deadlifts or pull-ups or wall balls. I mean, you mentioned before, some of the hardest workouts are a wall ball in a box. You know what I mean? It's like, it's amazing, but I think if you're able to apply it, and you mentioned it, we've had people coach before, and they might be good athletes, but if they can't adapt to people, and I think I've gotten a lot of this from soccer and my job. I mean, you talk to a lot of people, and you the same thing. We talked very early in the podcast about adapting to the boys on the dirt bike and stuff, but same thing goes. Like, if you know that you can push somebody a little harder because they can take it, the ones that they're there just to check the box. You also know the ones that really don't want to be coached, and then all of a sudden you try to give them a pointer and they don't listen to you, or they're just like they want to do their own thing. And at the end of the day, as long as they're not hurting themselves or hurting others, I'm okay, and I guess trying to adapt to that is kind of fun. You learn it, but I'm sure you've been doing this now for, like I said, a few months or 6-7 months, and
about 8 months down.
Yeah, and I think it's very rewarding. And
that's awesome.
And I want to ask you, because you've probably, I've felt this, but there's something about teaching the basics to somebody that makes you better, because then you're relearning. Even though you're teaching somebody, all of a sudden you almost give yourself a cue that you're like, okay, yeah, now we're learning the overhead squat, and I got to translate that back because maybe I've gotten into some bad habits. Yeah, and
one of the biggest things, like you kind of touched on, is the more you learn about CrossFit, the more you learn that you don't know as much as you think you do. Mm-hmm. The farther you get, the better you get, the more you realize, oh, wow, the more that you don't know. And teaching the fundamentals of CrossFit, one of the most rewarding things is I get that first athlete who comes in there and they may not have any idea how to do an air squat. They have an immature squat. They are, they're rounding at the back. They're up on
chest dipping.
Their knees are caving in and they're up on their toes. Mm-hmm. And some of the most rewarding things before I go any further, what I'm a big believer of, you take care of the little things and the big things take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. So you take care of your air squat. This is essentially which is why CrossFit focuses so much on it. This is your foundational movement for your back squat, your front squat, your overhead squat, your squat clean, your wall ball, your bottom of your squat snatch. That's just 6 movements right off the top of my head that we're talking about. What you're essentially doing is you're squatting. Mm-hmm. And how are we going to get better at squatting? We are going to take our body with no load and we are going to air squat. And we're going to air squat until we become proficient, and we are doing our air squat in a safe manner that's going to be now enable us to increase intensity and increase load a little bit, and then just seeing, okay, wow, Susie, you started 3 months ago. Remember when you couldn't throw that 10-pound wall ball up without going up on your toes, or we were back squatting and your bar was rounding? Now we're able to have a little bit of a heavier wall ball. We're doing wall balls unbroken. We now have 20 pounds, 25 pounds, 30 pounds on our bar, doing 4 sets of 5 back squat. And it was just a couple months ago you came in here, and whether it was just inexperience, it was lack of strength, flexibility, all these different adjectives that describe CrossFit that you didn't have, but now you have it. And it's so rewarding as a coach to see that.
Yeah, and I mean, The one good thing about CrossFit that I touched on it a little bit before, but at the end of the day, most people that go into CrossFit, a byproduct of CrossFit is, how you look and feel. But majority of the time you go in, and if you really focus on the performance aspect of, I want to get better at whatever, stronger, faster, more work capacity, everything else kind of takes care of itself. So it's kind of, I find it, it's one of those deals where if people really go in, and I say, just go in and focus on, like you said, you put it perfectly in the exact order, mechanics, then we work on intensity, or we work on load and then intensity, you know? So like we're going right down that scale. But, at the end of the day, if you're doing all those properly, if you're doing the workouts properly and you're pushing the pace in a safe manner and mechanically, fine-tuned manner, meaning everything you're performing the way you're supposed to perform, or hitting the points of performance, you're gonna make so many more strides because you took a step back, you learned it, you learned the basics, and you built on the basics. And to be honest, like you told the kid, Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, so true. If you take, problem is you get a young kid like that who wants to add weight and jump in with the big boys right off, and it's like, well, you're on your toes. I mean, we've had, kids from Plattsburgh State. So yeah, that's fine. We kids from Plattsburgh State that are, D3, say hockey players, phenomenal athletes. They're top of their, top of the sport. Or we've had the women's hockey team, national champions, and they're phenomenal at hockey. But then you ask them to perform very basic movements, and they can't perform it. And it doesn't mean they're not good at hockey. But when you look at it from a standpoint of, you talk about weaknesses, like CrossFit will expose those weaknesses. And that was always one thing that I tried to get really good at. I wasn't the strongest, the fastest, the most, body weight proficient, but I could do all of them very well. And I always did very well in stuff. Like if I went and did the open or the competition, I could finish fairly high within, but I wasn't going to win any of the workouts. I just wasn't going to bomb any of the workouts. And I think that goes a long way to say, like, really focus on eliminating any kind of major weaknesses.
Yep, that goes a super long way with the sport. But a lot of times people don't want to take the time to work on their weaknesses because that's not sexy. You know what I mean? That's not sexy. Practice is not sexy. Practice on doing a rope climb is taking 45 minutes in the gym before or after class and just working on foot placement. And maybe just doing a couple pulls up the rope and just working on her foot placement. That's not sexy. People are like, oh wow, I want to go and I can't do a rope climb that well, but what I can do is pull-ups. So let's do some more pull-ups. No, let's work on something I'm not good at because it's also very humbling. And a lot of people don't like that, is to be humbled. And the best way to be good at CrossFit, and you just touched on it, is be good at everything, great at a few things, and bad at nothing. Because if you're bad at something, that's just going to kill your score, especially if you're trying to be competitive, like with a couple other buddies in the gym or in the open.
You're done.
You could have, because say out of 10 guys, you're not going to win, but say you've got a third, fourth, fifth, 10th on that workout, that's going to kill your score. Rather than having a bunch of those scores about the third and the fourth, you're that one guy who's got that first, second, 10. He's gonna be much worse off than you having that third, second, fourth, fifth.
Yeah, I always find it kind of funny because, like I said, the big thing with a lot of people in CrossFit is the really good ones have no ego. Meaning they go in, they work hard, and and the ones that go in, and they excel at a lot of the, you might. And like I said, you can only do so much programming and stuff. But all of a sudden, when the open comes out and you're forced to do certain things, it's like you see someone that, might strut around, they have some good scores, and all of a sudden, let me see, at the end of 5 weeks, like you said, you got that 10th place finish in there where you were top 1, 2, 3, or 4. All of a sudden, the guy that was third, second, fourth, third, fourth, third is going to beat you because you had a ninth and a 10th, but you had 1, 1, 1 on the other ones. Because
going to win every day.
Yeah, and it's just funny to look at, and it doesn't mean, like, I'll take a 1, 1, 1, but like we know, okay, you probably, maybe it was handstand push-ups, or maybe it was handstand walking, or whatever. And like I said, usually the culprit is some type of body weight movement or gymnastics, high-level gymnastics skill movement. But, or even double unders, like you got to practice them. You got to get good at them. And I mean, don't get me wrong, being strong, trust me, the best I ever was the strongest I ever was, because there's a correlation there about how quickly you can move weight, and it doesn't, we just mentioned like a 135-pound thruster you can string together versus having to take a break every 3-4 reps. So,
Yep.
No, I think it's great. Now, I kind of want to not spend too much time here, but I think we can kind of maybe end on, we can tie this all in because I think this has to do, probably a good little segue with, we did talk about the CrossFit, we talked about work, we talked, I think, all the way your background, and kind of take a little piece off of, again, a guy in CrossFit, but we all know Matt. Well, maybe these people don't know Matt, but you know Matt Fraser, right? Obviously, and like
of course.
His tagline is always "hard work pays off." So, I've always looked at that, and I've really kind of prided myself on not being the most skilled or gifted, but I've come to the point where, especially, and I did this when I was trying to get good at CrossFit, and I'm doing it now when I'm trying to get good at business, is just trying to put in hard work and just outwork people. Meaning, because at the end of the day, I can only control basically my input. To control my output is control my input into stuff. And so kind of speak on that. Meaning, I know, and however you want to tackle it, but I think overall with what you've said, it kind of transitions or summed up very nicely, because I think you embody this quite a bit in a lot of things that you've done. It's just the mindset about like just putting in the hard work and what it's been able to, like talk, it could be whether fitness, whether it's you're currently in your position for business, or even just life as being, like I said, now giving back to younger children and educating them. Like how have you lived that kind of hard work pays off mindset or approach to life?
Well, I've always kind of, everyone always hears that growing up, hard work pays off, and it holds true to a lot of things. I'm a big fan and a big believer of you get out of it what you put into it. So in the, relating to whether it's your job or the CrossFit gym, if you spend that extra time working on things you're not good at, or working on weaknesses, whether it's at your job, if I spend a little more time on, I'm not good at, I'm a carpenter, or I'm not good at, taping walls, but I'm really good at painting, or I'm not good at building decks, learning more about decks and learning more about the different, angles and, whatever you may need to have in the CrossFit gym. If you're, I'm not good at a couple of these movements, taking that extra time to work on that over a period of time, what you get into it is what you're going to get out of it, and you'll see those results. And just with life in general, I'm a big believer of also doing your time. Things aren't earned, and I know with a lot of millennials now, they kind of have that I want to hop into the most high paying job and right out of school. Want it quick. Yeah. And I'm a believer of you have to earn things. And if you want to do great, I like to think of, especially as your employer, what makes you super valuable to me? What makes you valuable? So when you want that raise at the end of the year, your year's up. Okay, let's have the conversation. Let's have your yearly review. Why do you deserve that raise? Why? What makes you want to? What makes you think that you deserve this extra couple bucks an hour rather than the bare minimum which we're going to give you? Well, explain to me what you can bring to the table. I always like to, or just like to feel like I have backup for that. Okay, well, boss, this is what I've done. I've gone above and beyond here. If you just float with the Mason-Dixon line of what's asked for you, you're always going to be at the Mason-Dixon line. But sometimes that requires you to do things at home. Sometimes that requires you to do extra things on your job site, or just go a little above and beyond. Like if you're supposed to do, like for me, if you're supposed to do, 25 business visits a week, maybe I can get a couple more in there because I feel like, I'm just always out to get better. If I'm doing financial literacy presentations, I've done a couple. Okay. They've gone okay, but what else is out there that I don't know? What else can I, begin to learn that I don't know? I want to be able to do my job. This goes for anywhere. I want to be able to do my job the best. And I'm also going to peek over and try to learn your job as well. I'm also going to peek over to my right and try to learn your job as well. Let me just learn a little bit of it, and let me just go above and beyond and help you with yours. So when it comes time for you to, get that year raise or that bonus, hey, John, why do you deserve that? Well, this is kind of what I've done. I've brought in this. I've expanded my knowledge here. I have built a better relationship with this customer. I have gone above and beyond and done things, community events. I've been out and just really prided myself and given you all that I have, really.
Yeah, no, and I think you've done a good job, and I've, like I said, slowly starting to see what you've been doing. In your current job, and I see you now kind of out and about on a lot of things. I know we run into each other a lot, kind of at different functions.
We do.
I enjoy obviously seeing you just good people, and like I said, I think you are a hard worker, and I think you're putting a lot into every aspect of your life. And I don't. You talked about it before. I don't think that you're. If people tag you in as a millennial, I think you're on the opposite end of what majority of people would probably think of millennial as. So I think you're doing some good stuff for. And like I said, I'm sure SeaComm is lucky to have you, and I think you're doing some cool things. And
thank you.
Yeah, and I love other. We're very close in age. I like other people or peers or young professionals that are moving the needle forward for the area. And I think that provided you want to stay here long term, I think that you're going to be a good ambassador of the local community and in pushing things forward. So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, the biggest thing with growing and hard work, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, is just, and you could totally attest to this, is prime example. You were sitting down with some of your aspiring real estate agents, and they are super uncomfortable making those phone calls. At any point in any job, you're going to get uncomfortable. But when you are uncomfortable, it's because you're not sure what's going on, or you're not sure how to do this. It's not something you're routinely doing. Whenever you kind of break out of that shell of doing things that you're used to doing, things that are regular, that's when you really become uncomfortable, and that's when you begin to change. I know it's so cliche and everyone says it, but it's so true. Going, having a couple of different life experiences and especially with my job now and your job, it's, you turn uncomfortable situations into comfortable ones because you do them enough, and that means you're growing. So now I'm comfortable doing this. I am comfortable doing this. I'm comfortable doing this, rather than I'm just comfortable doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's really a kind of neat way to watch yourself grow and put that time in and put that hard work in.
I love it. What is it? Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I know that's what's that, a Navy SEAL quote?
It's something, but
I'm not going to sit here and say I've ever been to the military, but it's true. When you get uncomfortable or comfortable with being uncomfortable, it's like, okay, but that's when you grow.
Yeah, 100%
and change. So
we'll wrap it up there because John's you got to wake up early tomorrow, but I appreciate you coming on. Did you have fun? Yeah,
this was fantastic. Thank you for the opportunity.
He's on six scoops of C4 right now. He's ready to go. Right?
Yeah, it's funny. We had talked about. He goes, "Hey, you're still good for 8." This was a couple hours ago. I said, "Yeah, absolutely." He goes, "Get that pre-workout," and I said 3 scoops. And but truth be told, whether it's jacked or C4, I've taken pre-workout once in my entire life, and really? I was back at school.
Wow, okay.
And I absolutely hated it. It did nothing for me. Of course, we were fucking meatheads back in the day, right? Yeah. We were total just meat sticks. Just like take a slab of beef and just flop it on the kitchen counter, right?
Yeah,
that's what we were. We were just benching, squatting, cleaning, and drinking beer and pizza. And so I grabbed a couple scoops. Oh yeah, shake it up. Well, my buddies always did it. I never was big into pre-workout. All it did was made me itch. The entire workout I was miserable.
Yeah,
I absolutely hated it. It was called. I don't even know if it's still out there anymore. Jacked. You ever heard of it?
I don't even. I've taken I think half a can of pre-workout in my life, and I think it went bad and I had to throw it out. So.
Yeah, I absolutely hated it. I'm for any of you guys out there who want a little pre-workout, the best thing is just simple carbs and black coffee.
You're a coffee guy?
No, I actually don't ever drink coffee. Really? I've probably had 4 cups in my entire life, and because that was I literally used it as a placebo because I'm like, I'm a little tired, but I got to work out. Everyone says black coffee it really gives you the energy for that, just the quick caffeine. So let me just try some black coffee.
Oh, I've had plenty of black coffee,
and I've just told myself all right, I feel good now. Whether it worked or whether it was just kind of like the placebo, I really don't know, but yeah, that's my pre-workout story. I took it once, and all it did was just gave me the itch. Hated it. Absolutely hated it.
So words of wisdom. Don't take pre-workout and properly perform an air squat. So
yeah, and it'll lifelong lessons you'll learn from it.
Awesome. So, well, John, I want to thank you for coming on. Like I said, maybe we'll have you back. I know there's a lot we had down here that we didn't get to. So
there's good stuff on there.
We can. I think there's some more things we could always hit on in the future. So, I want to thank John for coming on. If you guys ever need or would like to see him, he works for SeaComm, obviously business development. So, if you do want to meet him, I'm sure easily reach out to him. He'll be more than happy to take you up on an offer to meet up. And I want to thank him again for coming on and all the good that he's doing in our community, and I know he'll continue to do in both business and the fitness realm. So, John, I want to thank you on that, and that is episode 31 of the Gaelan Trombley Show. We're out. Thanks for listening to the Gaelan Trombley Show. If you want to reach me, you can go on Facebook at Gaelan Trombley, on Instagram at Gaelan Trombley, and on YouTube at Gaelan Trombley. The spelling, GaelanTrombley.